We're now going to talk about car sharing and the most
And not what you think.
Not what you think. So let's bring out two people, Jean and Anthony. Come on out. Around here?
Oh, I'm sitting.
Hey, Jean, why don't you sit here? Hi.
Go ahead.
Sit here. So one of the reasons we're really excited to have you here, and you know, one of the things with Silicon Valley is we're Uber obsessed, talking about Uber. And I know you all don't want to say the word Uber, I get it, but you're going to have to because shockingly, they dropped a big press release right when you're sitting here.
Just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. I was just talking.
Totally pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence. I actually talked from an Uber. They're like, I'm like, this was not a coincidence. They're like, what? No, it totally was filed. It just happened to drop just when they're going to go on stage. So in any case.
So they just raised $3.5 billion. You already know this, but for those who don't, from the Saudi government's sovereign wealth fund.
Right.
This is not a private company or private investor, but the sovereign wealth fund of a national government,
absolutely.
Saudi Arabia.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about how much money is going into this, because you raised $1 billion from Apple, which is fantastic, but now looks small. No, it doesn't.
No, but wait.
No, we're impressed.
But I have to stop. Would you rather have $1 billion from Apple or $3.5 billion from the Saudi government?
Well, I would say we're looking for a strategic partner.
Okay.
If you will.
All right. So let's talk about the money that's going in. Now, you have raised how much, Anthony?
Close to 700 million.
Close to 700 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we have raised probably 5 billion. Before this round.
Before this round.
Okay, actually on the Uber news, I have to say, you know, our industry is actually in a very early stage, so more capital into it, the faster it's grow, right? So it benefits every one of us. And the current round we are raising is actually already bigger than the number they just announced.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
But yeah, so I think, you know, the fundraising can go on forever and ever, right? But at the end of the day, you still need to figure out what's real for, you know, if you want to win the market, it's really to win the heart of the users, right? That's what we are focused on.
So let's talk about let's talk about fundraising first, and we'll talk about products, obviously, and what you're making. But what is it, why is all this money, what is happening here? It's almost like an arms race. Anthony, why don't you talk about it first? I mean.
So how we think about it first, capital. Do we have enough? And for us, we have close to 2/3 of all the capital we raise. Right. We just understand what is important as in strategic partners. So we chose CIC, which is the Sovereign Fund of China. We chose SoftBank. And these are great partners who believe in Southeast Asia, population of 630 million people, double the size of the United States. And people who believe in Grab and believe in its long-term view. But more importantly, I think taking away the capital side, what is really important is this whole user experience. It is being locally relevant, city by city. So if I may, if you look at, take Indonesia, for example, population of 230 million people.
Right.
If you take just the black car solution, if you may, cookie cutter model, that's not going to work. In that place, you have people running 3 hours per day in terms of commute times, 3 hours every day. So with a bike, we have a Grab bike, which is a motorbike taxi. You can run for 30 minutes and you save 2.5 hours of your daily commute. So being able to offer taxis, cars, motorbikes, you're able to offer this multi-modal transportation system, and that really differentiates and is locally relevant to people who live in that country.
So when you're doing this, but still the amounts of money are massive. It really is. It's quite mind-blowing. Where does it go to? What do you need? Now you're operating in China. You operate all kinds of different services.
Yes.
What is the strategy behind this fundraising for you?
Sure.
Not is it Uber's coming in, they're subsidizing rides, you're subsidizing rides. When are you going to stop subsidizing rides, that kind of thing? But that's what's happening. It's sort of a land grab, I guess.
Yeah,
to me, that's what it seems like.
No, totally. That's a very good question, actually. A lot of people ask us about it. Well, in terms of fundraising, what we are really looking for is not just capital. I think, as Anthony rightly put, it's more strategic value we are looking for. That's why we have been partnering with really strategic partners, as Walt asked that question, what's our selection standard, right? We have been partnering with Tencent. You know, every Chinese, I don't know how many Chinese here, but every Chinese use WeChat. There are 600 million users, right? They all use WeChat. As long as you have a cell phone, you use WeChat, you use Tenpay, you use Alipay, right? Alipay, everyone knows Alibaba, right? It's also the largest e-commerce or worldwide, company. So we're partnering with them together. And now we have Apple together. Why we're doing this, why we have to find the most strategic value adding partner, because this industry is still in infant stage, right? We're talking about, we just broke a record, by the way. We just broke a record of completing 14 million rides on a daily basis. What it means, it's 5 times of the total number of ride sharing industry in the States on a daily basis. That's what we're providing, right? But still, it only means 1% penetration. So only 1% people commuting in China are using us. There's a huge room to grow, but you can't just grow yourself. You need a lot of strategic help, right? So that's our strategy in terms of finding capital, and that's our strategy in terms of how we look at this market.
But I want to go back to something that Kara raised. It sounds like you have a lot of capital. Not so much you. I mean, it's a lot of money, 700 million, but she's saying her current round is bigger than the 3.5 billion Uber announced, and she already had 5 billion, if I understand you correctly, right?
Before this round, we have raised the 5 billion already.
And now your new round is bigger than 3.5 billion.
After this, we'll be one of the best capitalized private companies.
Yeah, you'll be, period.
We will be.
In any business. It's a lot of capitalization. And yet you're still subsidizing rides. Now the capital allows you to do that, but does that mean that the business itself is not obvious and valued enough by the customers that at a reasonable price they will just pay it without you subsidizing it?
Yeah, sure. First of all, we're subsidizing much less, much less compared to when this company or this industry 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. The level of subsidy just keep decreasing because of the network is already built there, right? When you don't have sufficient drivers, when you don't have enough passengers, it takes an hour, 2 hours to get a ride. So at the very beginning stage of this business, you need to incentivize people to make sure they understand what it is, right? But once you have what we have right now, which is 14 million rides, including 11 million private car rides, right? Then you have a sufficient network, and then you will get your ride much quicker.
So when does the subsidy end?
Not just, well, in different cities, right? In a lot of mature cities, we don't have subsidy at all. We have business in 400 cities. We are profitable in 200 cities, right? So in some cities, we don't subsidize at all because people understand it. But in some of the cities, we do need subsidies.
And what about, go ahead.
Sorry. And I just want to add one point. And together, we're serving 1.3 billion people. Together, we're serving 2 billion people worldwide, right? So I think the capital injecting in this wisely has to be the number one.
Okay, Anthony, on the subsidies.
Together.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you look at Singapore, less than one, which is one of the capital cities in Southeast Asia, less than 1% of all our transactions are subsidized from the passenger side because there's just a lot of, it's an excess demand over supply. So let me just share a little bit of context. In Southeast Asia, 630 million people, double the size of the United States, but very low car ownership. So there's only about 6% car ownership versus United States, about 60% car ownership. So when you have that excess demand over supply, you actually you need, and I go back again, why you need, like in our business, we need taxis to supplement the entire business. And that's why for us, having taxis, not just motorbike taxis, but taxis
yeah.
In a country like Singapore, where we customize a technology whereby it allows you on one push of a button, you can aggregate all the taxis and all the cars in one go. So very tailor-made to just Singapore because Singaporean consumers are indifferent between a taxi and a car.
Right. Actually, I just want to add on to that if
Sure.
allowed. Yeah. Actually, Anthony reminded me, I think probably not a lot of people who have been to China frequently or who have taken public transportation systems. So maybe to appreciate my answer, probably I should lay out some background first. What's happening in China, why it's different between China and the US. Yesterday, I heard some guests talking about everyone has a car here in the States, right? I think in the Mark Few session, right? And this is a country built on cars, so people appreciate what cars means, but not really in China. China, you can say China is a country built on bicycles, maybe.
Yeah.
And because, even the penetration for car ownership is less than 10% in China, we simply can't grow car ownership as fast as we can. The sales actually drop to single-digit growth for car sales, right? That's because of the constraint on space. The road cannot afford more cars, and we don't have enough.
That doesn't stop us. We'll just sit there parked on the road.
Yeah, actually in LA here, I assume everyone who owns a car will have a parking lot at their garage, but not in Beijing. For example, in Beijing, we have 5.6 million private cars, but we only have 2 million parking lots. So most of the cars, you even see Ferrari just park on the road. Right, you see that, yeah, you've seen that, and it's a lot of congestion issue. And I've been back to Beijing for 4 years. I'm still waiting for my luck because in Beijing, to get a license plate is a lottery system. And in theory,
To get license plates?
to get a license plate, you have to participate in a lottery process.
This is because they don't want,
because they don't want more cars to go on the road.
because of the air quality.
Because of the air quality and also congestion, right? So a lot of cars, for every car, you are only allowed to get on road 4 out of 5 days.
Isn't this the perfect condition for your company?
Well, that's what I'm getting into. Thank you, Walt.
And since it,
Walt.
You're very kind.
since it is,
Yeah.
why should you have to subsidize anything?
Well, let me.
And why do you need to raise
Yeah,
capital?
I will come
Aren't
to
you in great
that.
shape?
I will come to that point. First is car cannot grow much, and second point is we have mega cities, right? Beijing has 30 million population. I think in China in general we have 44 cities who have population more than 2 million.
2 billion.
Here, 2 million, like
million.
cities.
Yeah, like
city
I was
population.
amazed in Shenzhen.
Yes.
These are huge cities.
In US, I think there are 4 cities, which has population of 2 million. So the population of each city actually outgrow the transit system in general. So there's a dilemma for us. How do you move people from point A to point B, right? So I'll come to answer your question. What we are doing here, right? What we're really trying to do here, Didi Chuxing means Didi mobility or Didi transportation. This is a big concept of transportation. It's not just a private car. Like Anthony just mentioned, we started as a taxi hailing app.
Right.
What does it mean? It means, our software platform can be used as a taxi driver dispatcher, right? So the taxi driver can pick up passenger from the street,
So
or
more,
they can
more than just a car,
Yes,
a
totally.
black car. So let's talk a little bit about your partnership together and then your partnership with Lyft. Could be seen as, it's sort of, I was trying to think, it's sort of like the two sides in the Avengers or something like that. It's like, did you have to decide to get together? What was the reason? Because most people saw it as an anti-Uber initiative, the coalition of not Uber, essentially. How did you look at it? Anthony first. What was
So I actually had the pleasure to meet Cheng Wei several years ago.
the CEO?
Yes,
Yes, I
That's
do
right,
too.
Will.
Yeah.
And we were just united on one vision, which was the idea of local companies rising and solving real local problems, and showing if you may, the power of a local company rising. On that, we wanted to focus on solving real problems, and that was safety, congestion. As you know, in Southeast Asia, cities, one of a very senior person in government said in Indonesia once that it's not the most traffic situation, it's the world's largest car park. Cars just don't move. And understanding that we want to solve these problems, hence the grab bike solution, hence understanding cars, the P2P car market alone is not sufficient. Understanding that, for example, in Southeast Asia, I don't know if you know this, but 95% of all Southeast Asia uses cash in transactions. Only 5% of the population is credit card and debit card. So very, very small population. So for us, when we first started, like Jean and with Cheng Wei, we agreed that it was about localization. It was about taxis, which was ample supply. It was about being able to, in China's case, it was about WePay or Tencent Pay. In our case, it was about being able to monetize from cash transactions. So localizing and being able to adopt one, taxis, in now our case, multimodal transportation, and cash was a huge advantage.
So why be together? Why do this?
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons for us to be together.
Okay.
First of all, we're
Well, tell them
Tell them.
to us.
Yes. Well, we are serving 2 billion people together. There's a lot of things to share. For example, this industry, as I mentioned, is only 1% penetration in China now, right? So there are a lot of best practice we can share together. For example, on technology-wise, we have a lot of local innovation. We talked about it last year, actually, right? For example, the Hitch product is a very convenient product.
This is a product where you pick up.
Yes, this is a product which you can preset. The driver can preset the destination, right? So he or she will pick anyone who's on the same way to work or home, right? So it's very convenient and also very environmentally friendly. Yes, for commuting. So this is something like the technology, the algorithm. China is a place, luckily, we have a lot of people. So actually the algorithm is well tested. And when we invent something, we can share with Anthony, and when they do something interesting, they can share with us, right?
And then the
We
relationship.
launched Hitch as well.
Yes, and they launch Hitch.
And what is the relationship with Lyft then?
So
You're not coming to the United States. Is Grab coming to the United States? Is Didi coming?
well, we are coming to the United States through Lyft. So today, we're very pleased to announce and officially goes live. Well, I'll show it to you very quickly. And you can see it's today on the Grab app, you can access all of Lyft's
So
cars
if you're
and
a
services.
customer from Southeast
Singapore, from Bali, from Jakarta, can come to Southeast Asia, or can come to New York or San Francisco, any city across where Lyft offers its services, there's full access. So that's one, and of
Without
course,
downloading it, just with the app you use at home.
exactly. So your same credit card, your same user interface that you're used to, and you have full access to all that supply. So with that global partnership, we actually have the world's largest number of cars and motorbikes in the world.
So why don't you acquire his company? Just curious. I mean, could that happen? You have all this.
I just irritate Jean a lot.
No, but does that have to happen? Do you have to sort of create?
No, we don't.
Why
think
not have a larger?
No, we don't think necessarily if you want to provide a good service, you have to own a company in another country. Actually, the service product, the product Anthony just talked about is a great product. We actually have that as well. For a Chinese who come to the States, she only need Didi. She access Didi and she get a Lyft car, right? That's extremely convenient, and vice versa. For you, Kara and Walt, if next time you come to Beijing, you probably only need a Lyft to get a Didi's car, right? You don't even need to know Chinese or anything. So this already serves a lot of purpose because our end goal is to how do we serve our customer best, right? And in terms of partnership, well, there are a lot of possibilities, but I think so far we are very happy with each other. And we also invest in Lyft. I think they have made huge progress by themselves, right? They have almost doubled their market share last year. And even for the first quarter, they have grown 50%. I think in San Francisco, they have market share of 45%. So that's already pretty good progress, and we're very happy with that investment. We just think local champions have their own advantage because they know the people more, know the market more, and understand the regulatory environment. So not necessarily we have to do something by ourselves.
So when you get an investment from Apple, when you say strategic, or when you get different investments that you get, what do you expect to get from Apple? Because many people think Google will end up buying Uber if it's for sale.
Okay.
Apple could buy you all or whatever. Does that have to happen? Is that where it's inevitably heading?
I just think from a very big picture perspective, we just need to be collaborative and inclusive. You can't do everything yourself, right?
Well, so what does Apple bring?
Well, this is.
I mean, they bring $1 billion,
Yes.
but what do they bring? And they bring a shiny brand name.
Right.
Those two things are very helpful, but you kept talking about strategic. So
Sure.
what Apple isn't in this business. What do they bring to you?
Sure. Well, Apple is a leading technology firm. We respect them a lot. And there's one thing we share in common. In China, they're serving a big amount of Chinese users, right? A huge percentage of our drivers and our customers are using Apple, right? And we are serving the 800 million urban Chinese. So there's a huge common ground. There's a huge overlap. We serve the same type of
Well, how does that
people.
manifest itself? I mean,
Right.
well, I see if I do go back to Beijing
Right.
and I use this app and I get myself a car,
Right.
Is there going to be an iPhone ad in the back? I mean, what's the synergy?
Well, there are a lot of things you can imagine. This is still in early discussion.
Well, help me imagine some.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, we will talk to them and they will talk to us about how we can work together.
Will it take me to an Apple store whether I want to or not?
Oh, that's definitely doable.
Yes,
That's a great idea.
We'll take you to a hotel, Mr.
Yeah,
Mossberg,
totally.
but first, the Apple store.
No, totally. That's a great idea.
Last question. Each of you each have sort of innovative, not that people aren't as familiar with your companies. You have different products, your transportation companies. Most people know Uber and Lyft here is ride sharing, and they have some Uber Pool and Lyft Line, and, but it's about the same idea. As you click the thing, you get in your car. I never get in the pools or lines because I don't like speaking to
Right.
people. I hate.
Okay.
Talk about what product that you see as really most unusual for each of your companies. Then we'll get to some questions from the audience. Let's start with Anthony.
Sure. For us, we have, if you think of one platform, we have our taxi, car, bikes, and what we're developing now is our payment side of the business. Again, in Southeast Asia, as I shared, there's no Alipay or WePay. And we think about how do you increase engagement? How do you increase more rides and better cohorts? So our payments, any of the services, you can pay by cash, by credit card, by debit card, including direct debit from your bank account. So if you have a current account, a savings account, that's how we think about it.
Most people use cash.
Most of them use cash.
Right.
And they're moving, and what we see is, we just launched this product a year ago, and we see, something like in Singapore, close to 40% of people are moving towards GrabPay.
Right.
So again,
Yeah, because it's so much more convenient. It's one of the
Exactly.
things that people love about Uber and Lyft here. I mean,
that's right. The in and out seamless
There's just
experience.
you're
And-
just
But the
done.
difference is that you can now do it with people who have no credit history, right? People who just have a simple current account, savings account, and now they can do that.
Okay.
And then Jean, now you had a lot of things. You had the drunk ride thing where people are drunk and someone gets
Yes,
you and brings
yes,
you home. But buses taking over the transportation system of China.
Yes, we are. Well, there's a whole range of products we are delivering to our users because China is such a complex market. Taxi is definitely very important. It differentiates us from anyone else because, of course, one reason is from a user's end, taxi is reliable. And secondly, from a supply perspective, taxi is actually a very important part of the supply system, right? So we are working with taxi industry and private car. Everyone's familiar with private car, and we have the hitch, which we just talked about. And there's one thing, chauffeur is actually something I want to talk about, which is the, how you can lower your, how do you call it, DUI, right? So a lot of people on our platform actually, they own a car and they go to work, they have a party, after some drink, they can't get home, right? There's a problem of calling a private car service because it's so troublesome. The next day, you still need to go back to the restaurant to get your car, right? So it's extremely inconvenient. So what we invent is for this user, let's assume, let's say Anthony, right? He drinks a lot.
Okay.
So after, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
I didn't
So
see that.
after he parties and, he doesn't want to get a private car home, so he calls up, he actually press a button on our app. It's just integrated in the same app, and there he will get a driver without a car who actually use a scooter to come and meet him, right? And that driver will drive Anthony home by using Anthony's car, right? So that way.
Is that expensive?
No, actually, well, it depends on how you
No, but
look at it.
compared to the other-
Compared to, of course, it's more expensive, right? So drivers like to do that, and luckily, we have a lot of taxi drivers who actually like to do that job, right? When they're off shift, they find this job, the unit price is higher, and it's extremely convenient for a lot of partier like Anthony. So it's extremely
Thank God for that.
successful, and
No
we
DUI
have
for me.
yes, and a lower DUI, and we have at least 3 million people using that service on a monthly basis.
3 million. a month.
3 million.
What's it
people.
called? Drunk or what?
We call it chauffeur service. So
Sounds
Classy.
classic.
yes,
Yeah.
we try to make it sound classy.
And
I use the chauffeur
Do you
service.
imagine, and again, we'll get to
Yeah.
questions. Do you imagine taking over the public transportation systems of your country?
Well, in fact, for us, we see ourselves completely integrated. Whether you jump on a bike or a jeepney or a car or a bus, how do we work with the limited rail there is? Really integrated. We work with the government. In fact, we've been the first ones approved and legalized by many of the governments. So completely integrated, again, on a collaborative approach with the governments.
Sure.
And Jean?
We're working with them, right? If you're a mayor of a city, all you care about is how you get, less jam, city cleaner, right, and less protest, right? People get employed, right? So these are the 4 areas when we talk to each city mayors. I think working with public transportation system is a very strong advantage for us. There are only 20% of people who are well covered by bus or subway in China. The all remaining people are still relying on bicycling or, a small percentage on others. So I think working with public transportation is definitely something very important for us.
Great. Questions from the audience?
Questions?
Questions? No? Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rosa. I don't know who did it first, is not the point, but as long as I know, Uber is doing some kind of experiments in Colombia, and one of them is called Uber Angel, which is exactly the same you are doing for people that are drinking. So they take your car and then they go back. Usually they are students, those who drive, because they have some different time. And also they have a system called Uber Pet, that they take your pet to the veterinarian. And also they are doing something Uber Bike. If it starts raining, a car that, like a van, takes your bike and takes you home back. So are you trying to do some kind of experiments like that?
Okay, I'll answer that first. We launched the chauffeur business, which is the drinking business, last June, right? So we have been operating for almost a year time, right?
The one that Anthony likes and
Yes.
drinks a lot.
So for the yes, thank you. So for the hitch business, we have been operating for almost a year as well, right? So I think in terms of local invention, we have been quite adventurous and successful. Yeah.
For us, besides Hitch, which a lot of people commute with on a daily basis, we launched Grab Express, which is a point-to-point delivery system because we have the largest number of bikes across all the markets. And we launched Grab Food, which is sort of within 30-40 minutes, you get your hot food. So very localized services. Again, the issue is how to deal with the congestion. 3 hours, just waiting 3 hours to get your lunch just ain't fun. So we thought of how do you get it within to you for 30 minutes. You stay in the comforts of your home or office.
So there's Uber Pet in Colombia?
Colombia, in Bogota.
Really?
Really?
Wow, that's interesting. It's, as soon as going to be Uber, I'm too friggin' lazy to walk. That's fascinating. Anyway, okay. Any more questions? Anybody? Any questions? So, where do you imagine this worldwide car sharing fight to end? I mean, is it going to be like there's going to be will one company win a country and then it'll be country by country, or because they're coming at you hard and the amount you raised from Apple's the amount they've spent there. Yeah. Same thing in Southeast. They're coming everywhere. Is it going to be this fight over a country and then someone wins and then people move on, or it'll be 2 services, or what do you see?
I answer
Yes, you
okay.
and then Anthony.
Sure. Well, I forgot to let people know about one background in China. People always talk about Uber, which is very understandable. But
Yeah.
actually, in the industries we're in, for the private car service, we have 87% market share. Mm-hmm. Even Uber has been consistently offering 20 to 30% discount nationwide, right? So our market leadership hasn't changed at all. Right, for taxi, we almost own 100%, right? So I think in China, it's a very special country. I think Jeff Bezos talked about it yesterday, about China and India, and it's true. China is a very different country, that's number one. And in terms of the ride sharing industry in general, I think, at least for China, I wouldn't speak for worldwide, but I think at least in China, technology is really the key. Again, I still want to answer Walt's question about subsidy, because I think at the end of the day, it's really not about subsidy. I wonder how many people here would rather get, a ride and wait for extra 30 minutes and to get a 30% discount. I guess nobody, right? When you want a ride.
Well, I'm a pro-subsidy guy. I'm just thinking from a business point of view.
Yes,
We
totally.
do not mind taking venture capital people's money
No.
and getting free food. We're getting, in San Francisco, I always call San Francisco assisted living for millennials. I benefit as an old lady.
Right.
I get free food, I get really good rides, I get everything cheap. It's wonderful.
Oh, well,
Thank you, Jim Breyer.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is, I think for China, subsidy is only, in this, last era. I think it's already way past it, right? For a market leader, you don't really need to buy more market share, right? Only a smaller player needs to do that. That's common sense, right?
Okay.
So I think for the ride-sharing industry, for the long run, in our mind, this will be a network, and cars will be a service, not just asset, right? And EV will play a very important part of it, because EV doesn't make sense for individual to buy it. The cost doesn't justify, right? But for our platform, 30 rides a day. So I think in 5 years' time, 50% of the cars will be EV, right? So, and also every time when you get downstairs, you probably get on your watch or not, right? You say, I'm going, right? Downstairs, there will be a car waiting for you. On Monday, it could be a 7-seater with baby seat. On Tuesday, it could be a black car, because the big data already record whatever you do in the past few years. And also because the system is so smart, machine learning, of course.
It's
so,
very, very
Creepy.
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 Yeah,
No,
little
but
creepy.
You're creeping us out.
But if you think, depends on what you're looking at, right? Like Jeff said yesterday, really you want your best service, right? And we protect privacy.
That doesn't mean Jeff wasn't creepy either.
Yeah, Greg is also
Okay,
creepy. I'm sorry, we got
okay,
one
I
more
give it to
question.
you.
We got a question.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jitu Patel from Box. I had a quick question for you around autonomous driving vehicles in China. And do you feel that traffic conditions over there would actually support that over time? And are you investing heavily in that area? And what do you see happening?
And I'm assuming, Anthony, you're not doing autonomous bikes, right?
Not yet, not the bikes
Not yet, don't
That's
say
a
that.
great
Okay.
idea.
So both of you, Anthony,
Yes.
are you
Sure.
doing any investment?
Yeah, so again, no cookie cutter model, very tailor-made. So if you look at Singapore, the government is very proactive with the SDV ecosystem, fully autonomous. That's what we're actually very involved with in the ecosystem for Singapore. But in markets like, say, Thailand or Indonesia, where maps are still not clear, one day a one-way street, tomorrow a four-way street. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how to navigate those roads, not navigate the off streets a lot more. And that's where our data science and our sort of dynamic algorithm and routing algorithms are spent.
And Jean will give you the last
Yeah,
one.
I think road condition in China is very complex, and the cost structure is very different, right? Especially for autonomous drive. So I think it would take a while. Technology can get mature first, and then how you commercialize it, right? Because when an autonomous car is getting cheaper, a normal car will get even cheaper, right? So I think it's very interesting to watch will be the trend. But having said that, I think as the biggest network operator, we will be uniquely positioned.
Have you made any investments?
We haven't, but we are closely watching it.
Closely watching.
And can I just end with, do you think autonomous vehicles, if for example, traffic conditions magically changed in China, where you would have autonomous vehicles be a reality, do you think it would be additive to your business model, or something that would actually almost disrupt your business model? Because your biggest asset right now is the supplier network.
Yeah.
And if GM could come in tomorrow, or anyone could come in and just drop 10,000 cars in China, wouldn't that actually level the playing field much more for you, where you wouldn't have an innate advantage?
Yeah, sure. So we are working with almost everyone in the OEM field. We're talking to everyone, and we're closely watching it. And all the OEM have come to us actually at the same time, right? They consider us as a partner because we're an open platform, we're technology neutral, right? So from that perspective, I think we have a very good position. And you're very right about China. I think I want to remind all the automakers, when you get an autonomous car in China, you probably want to put aggression mode. Otherwise, you won't be able to move probably for a week, given the condition in China.
Right. And she is not going to say what Travis said here many years ago. Is like, well, someday, hopefully, we won't have any drivers. So I don't think you're going to get her to say that at all. But good try. Good try. Anyway, thank you two so much.
Thank you.
Jean and
Thank you
Nancy.
so much.